evening, humankind. I am the Howlerist. Tonight, I'm going to tell you about a sound that burrows into your bones, a frequency that rewrites your mind from the inside out. Only 2% of you can hear it, and once you do, it never stops. Before we descend, please consider joining my pack. Like, subscribe, and mark yourself as one of us. Now, lights off, headphones on, and hope you're not one of the ones who can hear it, because what's listening on the other side is patient, and it's been waiting for you. There's a sound you can't hear, not with your ears anyway. It lives in the low frequencies, so deep it bypasses the cochlea entirely and vibrates your bones instead. Roughly 2 to 4% of the global population can perceive it. For them, it's a living nightmare. They call it the hum. It's a low, constant drone, a thrum that follows them wherever they go. Scientists have tracked it to no single universal source. It doesn't come from power lines or factories or any identifiable man-made origin. It simply exists. Picture it. A low, unceasing vibration that fills your home, your car, the inside of your skull. It never stops. Sleep becomes impossible. Sanity becomes negotiable. Those who hear it, the hummers they call themselves, report exhaustion, anxiety, and a creeping paranoia that won't let go. They describe the sensation of hearing a secret they were never meant to know. A language not designed for human ears. Maybe they're right. A global phenomenon. The earliest widespread reports emerged from England in the mid-1970s, most notably from Bristol, where letters began appearing in local papers about a low rumble heard by dozens of residents. Then, a series of articles in the Sunday Mirror triggered a flood of mail from readers across Britain suffering from the same maddening sound. About 800 people in Bristol alone reported hearing a steady thrumming. Scientists at Southampton's Institute of Sound and Vibration Research took notice, and in 1977 published a study about this particular environmental noise phenomenon that appeared to cause real and severe disturbance to certain people. That was just the beginning. In spring 1991, residents of Taos, New Mexico began complaining of a low-level rumbling. The reports became so persistent that it prompted an official congressional investigation. Joe Mullins, a professor from the University of New Mexico, led a team of acoustic researchers from Los Alamos National Laboratory and Sandia National Laboratories to hunt down the source. They set up sensitive equipment in the homes of hearers, measuring sounds and vibrations. Their conclusion? We are left with a mystery. People were clearly suffering from the same tormenting sound, but investigators had no idea where it was coming from and why it only affected 2% of the population. By 1999, the hum had reached Kokomo, Indiana. The complaints grew so severe that in 2003, the municipal government funded a $100,000 investigation. The research team found something. 2 industrial sources. A 36 Hz tone from cooling tower fans at the local Daimler-Chrysler casting plant, and a 10 Hz tone from an air compressor at the Haynes International plant. The companies made corrections. The equipment was silenced, but the hum didn't stop. Not for everyone. Late 2011, Windsor, Ontario. Residents began reporting a low, droning vibration. One evening in 2012 saw 22,000 complaints to officials. Canadian authorities traced it to Zug Island, a heavily industrialized section across the Detroit River. A U.S. steel blast furnace was the likely culprit. When the furnace was finally deactivated in April 2020, the noise stopped. Problem solved. For Windsor, at least. But Taos still hums, Bristol still hums, and new locations keep appearing on the map. Bondi, Australia, Largs, Scotland, Frankfurt and Darmstadt, Germany. A growing constellation of afflicted cities where a small percentage of the population hears something the rest of us cannot. Across the globe, specialized microphones have captured the sound in places where humans claim not to hear it. It registers between 30 and 80 hertz, below the threshold of conscious hearing for most people. But for those whose biology is tuned to this frequency, it becomes a constant assault. Living inside a subwoofer you can never turn off. The hum isn't just a sound, though. It's an absence that flattens everything else, turning the rich texture of the world into something flat and lifeless, filling all the spaces where other sounds used to be with a pervasive silence. Imagine trying to explain it to someone who can't hear it. Your partner sleeps soundly beside you while you lie awake, feeling the vibration in your chest, in your teeth, in the hollow of your skull. You check for idling trucks outside and find nothing. You search for machinery, for fans, for any source you can identify and eliminate. But there's nothing there. The sound has no direction. It comes from everywhere and nowhere at once. You start to doubt yourself, wondering if maybe you're imagining it, if maybe you're losing your mind. But then you find the forums, the support groups, and discover hundreds, even thousands of others describing the exact same thing. The same frequency, the same maddening persistence. That's when you realize you're not crazy. You're just one of the ones who can hear it. The psychological toll is staggering, with at least one suicide in the United Kingdom blamed on the hum. Hummers describe an intense, almost physical compulsion to escape, moving to remote locations only to find the hum follows them there. They try sleeping in different rooms, different houses, but it doesn't matter. The hum is always there, waiting in the quiet moments, filling the spaces between heartbeats. Relationships crumble under the weight of it. How do you maintain a marriage when your partner thinks you're obsessed with an imaginary noise? How do you hold down a job when you haven't slept properly in months? Some hummers become isolated, withdrawing from friends and family who don't understand, who suggest it's just stress or tinnitus or all in your head. They stop going out, stop trying to explain, and the hum becomes their most constant companion, more reliable than any human relationship. Some describe it as torture, a slow, grinding erosion of everything that makes life bearable. Katie Jacques, a retiree from Leeds, England, told reporters it was worst at night, saying, "You're tossing and turning, and you get more and more agitated about it. It's a kind of torture. Sometimes you just want to scream." And the medical community offers little help, suggesting white noise machines, cognitive behavioral therapy, and stress management techniques. These might help some people cope with the distress, might quiet the brain's fixation on the sound, but they don't stop the hum. Nothing stops the hum. And then there are the whispers. Unofficial theories traded through online forums and late-night phone calls. Some believe it's geological, the sound of tectonic plates grinding deep beneath the surface. But that theory fails to explain the most disturbing aspect: its behavior. Some hummers report that the sound changes. It pulses. It shifts. It seems to respond to their thoughts. That's where the real terror begins. What causes the hum? Science has offered explanations. Each one is as unsettling as the last. The first theory suggests the hum is autoacoustic, a sound generated by your own auditory system. Between 38 and 60% of adults with normal hearing experience these spontaneous emissions, though most are unaware of them. They typically manifest as a faint hissing or buzzing in complete silence. But what if, for some people, the frequency is different? Lower, deeper? What if the noise isn't out there at all? It's inside you. Your ears, through some rare physiological quirk, are producing a low-frequency tone you can't escape. Your body has turned against you, generating its own private hell. Then there's the geological theory. In 1973, researcher Philip Dickinson suggested that the 30 to 40 Hz hum could result from the jet stream shearing against slower-moving air, possibly amplified by power line posts or rooms with corresponding resonant frequencies. In 2015, French scientists proposed that ocean waves extending down to the ocean floor might be shaking the Earth itself, producing a constant, low-frequency vibration. Others point to seismic activity, tectonic plates grinding, volcanic tremors, as the source of the sound. The Earth itself breathing. The hum isn't hearing a malfunction. It's hearing the planet. The quiet, persistent breathing of something massive and alive beneath our feet. A geological heartbeat usually drowned out by the noise of daily life. What does it think of the cities we've carved into its surface? What does it feel about the weight we've placed upon its skin? But the most chilling explanation involves communication. Military forces use very low-frequency radio waves to contact submarines across vast distances. The Kokomo system, aircraft equipped with extremely long VLF antennae that can penetrate nearly any surface, reaching submarines 100 feet below the ocean. These waves require massive amounts of energy and can cover the globe. Some researchers believe the hum occurs when sensitive individuals somehow convert these electromagnetic waves into audible sound. It's a signal, a message transmitted across the void. But who's sending it? And why can only certain people hear it? Perhaps the hummers aren't the lucky few who can perceive something special. Perhaps they're the chosen few, the ones being pinged, located, and tracked. David Bagley, head of audiology at Addenbrooke's Hospital in England, has researched the hum for years. He believes the phenomenon might be caused by sensitive brains, not ears. Our sense of hearing is greatly heightened in times of stress. The brain cranks up the volume to detect the slightest threatening sound. In the case of the hum, people hear about it and begin to fixate on a perceived background noise. The incessant sound becomes a source of increasing frustration, disrupting sleep, causing additional stress, which tricks the brain into turning up the volume even further. A feedback loop that spirals deeper and deeper. But that doesn't explain the recordings, the measurements, the documented frequencies captured by scientific equipment in empty rooms. The ones who listen most hums have been explained away as industrial sources or natural causes. Fish mating calls, like the plainfin midshipman in Sausalito, California, whose low-frequency drone resonated through houseboat hulls, providing mundane answers for mundane problems. But most cases remain unexplained, with hummers never finding their source, while the sound continues year after year with no origin and no end. And that's what keeps them awake at night. Not just the sound itself, but the unanswered questions it poses. If it's not industrial, not geological, not inside their own heads, then what is it? Where does it come from? And why can only some people hear it? Some hummers report changes in the sound over time, patterns that seem to emerge, rhythms that feel almost deliberate. They describe moments when the hum seems to respond, growing louder when they focus on it, shifting in tone when they move to different locations. These accounts are often dismissed as pattern-seeking behavior, the human brain's natural tendency to find meaning in random noise. But the reports persist, and the mystery deepens. For those who've suffered for years, there's a desperate hope that one day the sound will simply stop, that they'll wake up to blessed silence and their lives can return to normal. But some wonder what that silence might mean. After years of constant noise, would silence bring relief, or would it bring something else entirely? The hum remains one of the most persistent and puzzling acoustic mysteries of our time. Despite decades of research, despite sensitive equipment and dedicated scientists, despite the thousands of reports from around the world, we're no closer to a universal explanation than we were in the 1970s when it first captured public attention. For now, the hummers continue to listen, continue to search for answers, continue to hope that someone, somewhere, will finally solve this maddening puzzle. They gather in online forums, compare notes, support each other through the sleepless nights and the dismissive doctors and the friends who don't understand, and the hum continues, constant and unchanging. A low-frequency mystery that affects a small percentage of the population for reasons we still don't fully comprehend. Perhaps one day we'll have answers. Perhaps one day we'll understand what causes this phenomenon, why some can hear it and others cannot, and what, if anything, can be done to stop it. Until then, the hummers listen, and they wait. The listeners. The hum began as a faint thrum, a low-frequency vibration that seemed to rise from the earth itself. At first, Elias dismissed it as part of the city's background. Distant traffic, unseen machinery, the ambient noise of urban life. But the thrum didn't stop, burrowing into his bones as a sound so deep it bypassed hearing entirely and became something felt. His wife Sarah couldn't hear it, and her concern grew with each passing day. "Elias, stop," she'd say, hand on his arm, her touch warm and gentle. "There's nothing there, sweetheart. You need to rest." But there was something, and rest had become impossible. Weeks passed, then months, and the hum followed him everywhere. It grew louder in the evenings, reaching a crescendo in the dead hours between 2 and 4 in the morning. Elias would lie beside Sarah, watching her sleep peacefully, wondering how she could remain so undisturbed while the world thrummed and pulsed around them. "Maybe you should see someone," Sarah suggested one morning over coffee, her brow creased with worry. A doctor might be able to help with this, but doctors couldn't help. The first one suggested tinnitus, the second mentioned stress, and the third looked at him with poorly concealed skepticism. They didn't understand that this wasn't in his head, that this was real. The hum began to change over time, developing patterns he couldn't quite grasp, rhythms that felt almost like language. He started keeping notes, filling pages with his observations, trying to decode what the sound was telling him. Sarah would find these pages scattered around the apartment and gather them up, reading them with increasing alarm before sitting him down to talk about getting more help. Sleep had become a distant memory, replaced by a twilight state where the hum grew louder and more insistent. His reflection in the bathroom mirror showed a stranger, hollow-eyed, gaunt, skin the color of old paper. Sarah begged him to eat, to sleep, to please just try the medication the doctors prescribed. But nothing helped. Then the shadows started moving. Dark shapes flickered in corners and slid along walls, appearing at the periphery of his vision. He'd turn to look directly at them, and they'd vanish, leaving him staring at empty space while the hum pulsed in his chest like a second heartbeat. When he told Sarah about them, she held his hand and cried, asking him to please get help before this got worse. That night, he saw them clearly for the first time. Sarah slept beside him, her breathing slow and steady, and Elias lay rigid, staring at the ceiling. He felt a weight on his chest and found he couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't do anything but watch as the ceiling became covered with them. Hundreds of small figures, each no bigger than his thumb, black and glistening like beetles fresh from wet earth, moved in perfect synchronization across the surface. They crawled in spiral patterns that made his eyes water, and their movements matched the rhythm of the hum exactly. They were listening. When he could finally move again, he scrambled backward, gasping, and when he looked up, the ceiling was blank and white and utterly normal. Sarah stirred beside him, mumbling something in her sleep, and he sat there trembling until dawn, unable to shake the certainty that what he'd seen was real. The next night they came closer, appearing on the walls beside the bed, crawling across the dresser, gathering in the corners like living shadows. They never approached Sarah's side of the room, staying exclusively on his, moving in those same spiral patterns, while generating a clicking, chittering frequency beneath the hum that made his teeth ache. He started to understand that the hum wasn't just a sound, but a signal, a carrier wave for something else. And these creatures, these listeners, had been waiting for someone to hear them, someone to respond. "I can't do this anymore," he told Sarah one night, his voice breaking. "I think I'm losing my mind." She wrapped her arms around him, and he could feel her shaking as she held him close. "We'll figure this out together," she whispered. "I promise we will." But the hum had grown so loud it seemed to be coming from inside his skull, drowning out everything else, filling every moment with its relentless frequency. The listeners appeared every night now, covering more of the room, moving closer, their clicking voices weaving through his thoughts. That final night, the listeners covered every surface of the bedroom, hanging from the ceiling in writhing clusters, carpeting the walls, gathering on the floor in a living sea of black, glistening bodies. The hum had become deafening, a physical force that pressed against Elias from all sides. And within it, he could finally hear the message it had been carrying. Not language exactly, but intention, purpose, an invitation to join something vast and patient. His legs moved without his conscious command, carrying him to the window as if pulled by invisible strings. The listeners crowded around him, covering his arms and chest, their touch like ice water against his skin. When he looked down into the alley below, he could see thousands more gathered in the darkness, their upturned faces waiting. Behind him, Sarah had gotten out of bed, but he couldn't turn to look at her, couldn't do anything but stand at the open window while the hum reached a crescendo that threatened to split his skull. The listeners were in his head now, their clicking frequency woven into every thought, rewriting his will, guiding him forward. He stepped onto the ledge, and for one perfect moment, everything became clear. The signal, the listeners, the purpose of it all, the reason his death was necessary. The hum wasn't keeping something out, but calling something in, and he was the beacon that would open the door. He jumped without hesitation, without fear, and the scream that tore from his throat was swallowed by the hum. He hit the pavement with a sound like breaking pottery, and the pain lasted only an instant before the listeners swarmed over him, their voices rising in what might have been triumph. Above, at the window, Sarah stood watching until the last of them had crawled inside the broken shell of her husband's body. Then she closed the window with a soft click and returned to bed, lying down and pulling the covers up to her chin. The apartment was silent now, perfectly and utterly silent. And she closed her eyes as her breathing slowed and became regular. She looked like someone preparing for a long, restful sleep. But she wasn't sleeping. She was listening, and in the darkness, something whispered back,